Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ealing Road podcast, where today we'll be going through a 1-0 victory at Villa Park. I think one of the best Premier League away days to date on Sunday. Mike is traveling somewhere around Asia, so he's not joining us today, but I am joined by Craig. How are you, mate?
I am over the moon. I am so buzzing after that result, especially considering we was after that Forest game. We was going, oh, these two defeats could very quickly turn into five. I am over the moon with that result.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I mean, that my heart rate in the second half, it was not good for me. It's really not good for me.
No.
Um, just before we get going, please remember to comment, subscribe, and follow us on our socials. That is at the Ealing Road on Twitter and at Ealing Road Pod on Insta. So then, Craig, tweet of the week. We've got a couple from Villa fans, a typical away fan, a typical home fan response when Brentford go to a big team and turn them over. Something like this from Lewis on Twitter. They won at Villa Park and are acting like they've won the World Cup. It's so cringe how big it was for them. But I think rightfully so, Craig, given the circumstances. Shades of Russell Slade there from Leighton Orient all those years ago. But I think that's only right. What do you think?
Well, all you've got to do is look at the Premier League table. You've gone to Villa, who are third in the Premier League, pushing those top two all the way. They're a Europa League club who's just finished second in the Europa League table. And we've never won at Villa Park. We've never won at Villa Park prior to this. And we had a player sent off after 43 minutes. So we played the entirety of that second half down to 10 men. In my opinion, they'd have done the exact same thing if they came to the G-Tech.
Yeah, I felt like we had one there because I feel like in the championship we always used to do well against them, but I think we always drew at their place and won
Yeah.
ours.
We went 8 games. So when we got promoted to the championship, or more when they got relegated, because I don't think we played them in the first year or two, we kept winning at home, but we kept drawing away. And that went into the first season in the Prem when Ivan Toney scored away at Villa. We drew 1-1. But ever since then, they've beaten us every game at their place, and we've struggled against them at home. Well, not this
Yeah,
season, because we've done the treble over them.
yeah. I think obviously they're a top team, and I think the circumstances. I think any away game when it's 0-0 when someone gets sent off, then you score, and then the second half, you put everything into that victory, and I think that those are the big, well-deserved ones that
Mm.
we value the most, I think, as fans. We've got a tweet of the week from a Brentford fan as well. We've got Joe on Twitter who says Aya is our best centre half by a fucking stretch, and he's been used as a right back for the past 4 seasons. I think he might have played centre back here and there in the first couple of seasons, but this is probably his first real run he's got at centre back. Do you agree that he's our best centre back, certainly at the moment?
And certainly at the moment. Well, the thing is, you've got to think when he started, our centre back, when he joined, sorry, our centre back pairing was Pontus Jansson and Ethan Pinnock. And he was never really going to displace either of those. And then Nathan Collins and Sepp had a really good partnership last season for the majority of it as well. But ever since he's come in and stepped in at centre back, he's been absolutely unreal. And like I said last week, it's difficult because Collins and Sepp both had a mistake in them, but Aya just looks solid until that first mistake happens anyway, and then we'll go, oh, look, there you go, he's joined the other two. But he looks so solid, and it's like he lives to defend. He lives to defend.
Yeah, and those surging runs forward as well. I think he does that so good. I think Collins used to do that. But we've not seen that so much from him recently. But I suppose that brings us into the lineup. And obviously, the big news was that Nathan Collins had been dropped. I didn't expect to see him at all. Not going to lie. After the injury last week,
No.
obviously Damsgaard also on the bench. But a centre back pairing of Aya and Sepp Vandenberg. Did you see that coming?
Well, no, obviously, like you say, because of the injury that happened last week against Forest, you're thinking, we're not going to see Damsgaard, we're not going to see Aya, especially with how poorly managed players were last season when they had injuries. But you asked the question of, is Christopher Aya our best centre-back, especially at the moment? Well, he went off injured last week, and he started ahead of our captain this week. So I think that kind of gives you a bit of an indication as well as to what Keith Andrews thinks about Christopher Aya. In regards to Nathan Collins getting dropped, if we're being realistic, he probably needed it. Like, he probably needed a little bit of a break out of the team, take him out of the spotlight. He's had if I'm not mistaken, he scored a couple of own goals this season. One definitely, maybe two. And just take him out of the spotlight, give him a little bit of a break. You've made a point that he played every single minute in the last 1.5 seasons prior to this game. Give him a little bit of a break. But Aya just brings the levels of the players around him up, especially when he was partnered with Nathan Collins and when he's partnered with Sepp. Both of those players look so much better when they're next to him.
Yeah, I think I was surprised more than anything that it was Van den Berg who remained in the team over Collins, especially given, obviously, I think we can all agree he was probably most at fault for the second goal against Forest. I was quite surprised to see him given the nod over Nathan Collins. And if we're being honest, after that performance, does Collins even come in for the next one? I suppose we'll find out next week. But let's get into the game. I thought let's break it down into a couple of stages of the game. First of all, 11 versus 11, because I thought it was a very different game, and I thought we were actually quite positive on the ball, and it looked like we were heading towards another positive performance. What do you think?
Yeah, well, 11 versus 11 is completely different, isn't it, to 11 versus 10? But Brentford fans as well giving the linesman some grief throughout that game as well. It didn't feel like it was just 11. I know that Villa fans on socials are going, you can't say that about the referee. They were crap for both teams, which is fair enough. But there is the thing that Hendo brings to the team, and we know this throughout the season, is that ability to pick the ball up deep and find that ball over the top. And I did a Villa podcast, Villa preview last week with an Aston Villa fan. And I said to them, if they play that high line, which is what they do, if we can pick the ball up in and around the edge of our penalty area, sort of between the edge of the centre circle and the edge of the box, if you play that high line, we will find a ball over the top and we will push them on that counter. And that's what we did so well through that first half when we had 11 players on the pitch. And then obviously the goal, which we'll talk about afterwards as well. I thought that they're going to Villa Park, you know it's going to be difficult anyway. Putting yourself in a situation where you go down to 10 men and have to play the game the way we did. We did so well beforehand, but we did so much positive and so much great work afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think it was just two very different performances, both solid, both really positive. I thought, again, we got on the ball really well, a bit like the Chelsea game when it was 11 versus 11. Ironically, I think Villa probably had their best chance of the game. Also at 11 versus 11, obviously with Kelleher making a big save, which also broke the run of the last 4 shots on target all going in. But I think credit is due to Kelleher there, coming up big again when we needed him. I suppose that 2 chances for our side was that shot when Dango took it on. Obviously, should have put it away. I think he was offside. If he had left it for Schade, then apparently he was onside. I've not seen it. It wasn't included in the match of the day highlights. And then
we can tell Mike, thank Mike for that one. You know, plastic fan has to watch on the telly going on his travels.
Yeah, from miles away. Yeah,
during the season.
It doesn't even bother with the podcast. The other one that someone raised on Twitter to us was obviously that I think it was towards just before the red card, perhaps, when Thiago looked like he might have been through. There's a little bit of a soft foul given on Konsa. I think you see them given quite often, if I'm honest. But what are your thoughts on those first half chances?
Well, like we said, it's like Schade leaves it for Dango. Schade's onside, but Dango's offside. If Schade is just confident in himself, which after recent games you'd think, he should be higher confidence. Chelsea, he wasn't fantastic. Forest, he wasn't fantastic, but he scored a few goals before that as well. Just take the chance on and go for it. Obviously thought that Dango was in a better position. But what I'm happy about is after the chance that he missed against Forest, Dango sort of went in on himself a little bit and he looked passive. He looked shy. He didn't look like he wanted the ball. But what I thought was really impressive is he had that chance. He missed it. Let's not beat around the bush. The fact that he missed the target completely is shocking. He didn't even make the goalkeeper save it. I know he was offside, but he should at least be challenging the goalkeeper. To not let that affect him and then go on to score is brilliant, which we'll talk about again. But I thought that challenge on Constant came after the goal. To be honest, I thought we was already 1-0 up. I could
It might have.
I
Yeah.
thought it was, but I could very well be wrong. People in the comments will correct me, I'm sure. But you do see they've given, but they're incredibly soft. What Concert does so well is he just turns his body so that it almost seems as if Thiago just runs straight into his chest, but he turns at the last minute, which ultimately puts himself off balance. But all he has to do is wait for the contact from the striker and then go down. But they're ridiculously soft efforts. Thiago may well have missed, probably would have scored, may well have missed. But to give soft fouls like that, it completely, in my opinion, it affects the fluidity of the game. And it didn't help the Brentford fans' opinion on the linesman for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting stick the whole game. I mean, our recent record when we've been through on goal in the last couple of games doesn't fill me with confidence. I think that's an area, obviously, we need to start putting those chances away again. I think I saw a league table where we're like second on big chances created per 90. And if we're putting them away, we're in the right positions. We're not far away. I think we just need to get that last bit over the line. And obviously you mentioned Kevin Schade. We've got to talk about him again. He's probably the player we've spoken about most this season. Craig, what are your thoughts on the red card and obviously the role of Matty Cash that he played in? Because I've seen him getting quite a bit of criticism as well in getting Kevin Schade sent off.
Well, what are your opinions on it? Because
you saw my message in the group chat.
Yeah, like Kevin Schade is when Nathan Collins first joined us, and we went through that first season going, Nathan Collins is either really good or really bad, and Kevin Schade seems to have morphed himself into that player where when he's good, he's unstoppable. He'll score a hat-trick, but when he's bad, he's unbearable to watch. It's difficult to watch him. Now, when you watch it back, Matty Cash lifts him up, which then makes him put his foot in him. But Shade's put himself in that situation. He knows for a fact that if he puts his foot on someone, doesn't matter if it's Matty Cash or anyone else, I say anyone else, you've got players like Bruno from Fernandes and Bruno Guimaraes. It's just the Brunos, apparently, that will roll around after they feel any ounce of contact. But to put your foot on them, press your foot into them, they're going to roll around. Matty Cash over-dramatizes it. There's a clip from Jamie Redknapp. Just go, Matty, you know what you're doing, mate. And it was embarrassing. And it didn't give him a good rep, let's say, for the rest of the game as well. Whenever he got on the ball, the fans were booing him. So he got the stick he deserved, but it's Shade's own doing. It's his own fault. His attitude's not fantastic anyway. We've called for him to probably have a little bit of a break anyway. And this could open the door. I would say it could open the door for Rommel or for Reece Nelson, but really, let's be realistic. We know it's going to be KLP. But
or Damsgaard with Dango. A bit like what we did when Dango was gone. Maybe have Dango playing the Kevin Schade role and Damsgaard back in the side, which is probably what I'd want to see. I mean, I'll be honest on Kevin Schade. I'll reveal what I said in the group chat. And I think we're quite balanced on this podcast. We've criticized him at times this season. We've also given him his flowers when he's done well. We've always said that he's got those brilliant performances in him. He's got the potential to be a top player, but it's not even just about the football for me. I think just the petulance. He is the only Brentford player that I can imagine falling for that from Matty Cash and reacting the way he did. And it's not just that, he goes down far too easily every single game. He's one of those players that if he played for someone else, I'd find him really annoying. And, after the Chelsea game, when he posted that video on Instagram, which he later took down, I'm just thinking, do you not take responsibility for your part in, some of these things? You go down far too easily. Some of these highlights you're showing really do not show you off in a good light, even as a
No.
footballer, in terms of the decision making at times. And he is the first to go down the tunnel when things aren't going well. He, that game could have gone really differently on Sunday, and he could have let us down massively. And Ivan Toney always carried a bit of controversy around with him when he was at Brentford, but Ivan Toney was our best player. Now, for me, Kevin Schade is not good enough for me to just be okay with everything that he showed.
I don't think it's that he's not good enough. It's that he's not consistent enough. Like, because if he played like the Leicester game last season, the Bournemouth game this season, there's so many other games as well where he's played well, but it's 1 in 10, it's 1 in 15 good games. It's the inconsistency from him. His attitude doesn't seem fantastic. There are very few photos of him smiling. Just anywhere. Anyway, when Brentford posts anything, he never looks happy. There's the photos when they used to go into the changing rooms and he's sat cross-armed slumped in his chair, not looking too happy. And like you say, even when we win, it feels like he's just down the tunnel. He's just down the tunnel.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like again, I don't want to criticize him for those things necessarily, because that's just who he is, and he's probably not the most confident, and he's not really outward of his emotions. But if we had a team of Kevin Schaders, I don't think that really would align with the culture that we want to create, the relationship we want to create between the fans and the players. It's okay when it's just him, because everyone else is there to do all the things that they do, and the likes of Thiago have a really infectious personality. But for me, it's more on the pitch, the stuff he does and the frustrations he causes. And he'll come back, no doubt, after the 3 games ban. It'll probably be straight back into the starting lineup. I think he'll have a couple good games this season where he'll score 2 or 3. But I wouldn't be too disappointed if we cashed in on the summer, because I think we could still get quite a bit of money for him. And to be honest, I think if we've got a decent replacement lined up, I think we should probably go down that route.
I mean, the money that we're going to get for him is probably going to be around 50, 60 million. There's going to be players out there that can replace him. And it's a difficult situation to be in for him, because if he goes to a big club, like if he goes to Spurs, if he goes to a United or a Chelsea or Borussia Dortmund, where they have big fan bases, and his attitude is as poor there as it can be here. Like, don't get me wrong. There are games where I look at him and I go, "Oh, he's unreal." There are games I watch and I go, "Unreal." When he runs at that player and he does it consistently in a game, there's no player better than him, because he's just so quick as well. But it's so inconsistent that fans of big clubs won't have it. And he'll get grief. He'll get more grief than what we give him, for sure. And you said, "Oh, if we had a whole team, we wouldn't have any players to applaud at the end of the game. They'd have all buggered off. It would just be Keith Andrews stood out there on his own." But if so many people on the socials are not happy with Kevin Schade prior to this game. I'm still so annoyed that he passed at Chelsea, by the way. I was still so annoyed that he tried to pass.
I can forgive those things about all the other drama around it, around posting the video of it the next day, that, stupid red cards like this. I can take, if you mistime a tackle and you end up going in high, I can accept the red card for that. But it's just these types of things I find it hard to accept.
You knew that Matty Cash was going to roll around and things like that. There's a great example earlier on where we're attacking and the ball goes out to the right back. So it goes out to Matty Cash. And Christopher Ayer just tries to block the ball. And then Matty Cash rolls around himself afterwards and gets Christopher Ayer booked. That is dark arts in football, which we don't do fantastically well, because we're just rubbish at diving, clearly, because Schade doesn't do very well with it. And when we do get fouled, Dango gets booked for diving anyway, even when he does get fouled. But there are players like Matty Cash out there that all it seems like all they're interested in is getting an advantage via maybe not the cleanest or I don't really know what the word is to use here without swearing, but basically just being a bit of an arse to try and gain an advantage.
And for me, if there's one Brentford player who's going to do that, flipping the script, I think it would be Kevin Schade out of our whole side. So, anyway, let's move on from it. It's a chance for someone hopefully to come into the team in the next few weeks, see what we can do without Kevin Schade in the side, which we haven't really seen much really this season because he's always in and around the side. The goal shortly after, trademark ball over the top from Hendo, a great finish from Dango, much more difficult chance than the one he had earlier in the game. Pretty sure that's the only shot we had for the rest of the game. How are you feeling? Because that obviously went in just a couple of minutes after the red card.
Well, after the red card happens, you're thinking, oh, God, just get in at half-time 0-0 and just see it out in the second half. And then we go 1-0 up. And you're thinking, oh, get in at half-time 1-0 now, because literally as soon as we scored afterwards, they had chances down the other end. And there's a great block from Christopher Ayer as well straight away afterwards. Thinking, oh, man, get in at half-time 1-0. But to go go down to 10 men, then go ahead, go 1-0 up and see the game out. Christopher Ayer said in his post-match interview that was peak Brentford. I can't recall the last time that happened. Yeah, that's peak Brentford. Yes, mate, it might be, but I can't remember the last time it happened. Do you know what I mean? We were in the car going, I cannot remember the last time that we went down to 10 men, went 1-0 up, and then saw the game out. And to do it at a place like Villa Park against this Aston Villa team, against an Unai Emery team, that's why it feels like we've celebrated so hard to that Villa fan that says, oh, they celebrate like the one at World Cup. People underestimate or overestimate maybe what we are as a club. Do you know what I mean? Our away record stinks. So to be able to go to somewhere like Villa, go down to 10 men, then go 1-0 up and see the game out, it is a huge result. And I don't think it actually matters who it is. Anybody, Arsenal would have done it, City would have done it. They would have celebrated the way that we did.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit like the Wolves away game, I think in our first season, but where we won with 10 men at Molineux, but I think we might have already been up.
We was 2-0 up. Yeah, Shandon Baptiste got sent off, didn't he?
Yeah, and I remember didn't David Ray take off his glove, and we were employing different dark arts that day as well. But that's the only thing it comes close to. But I mean, this is way more impressive to me, and even at half time, I can't say that I was confident at all that we'd see it out. I think we've seen so many games where we've been in that low block against big sides, often with 11 men, and 20 minutes or so we can maybe hold them off, but when it's happening all the time, when we just clear it and it comes straight back at us, normally it ends up in them scoring. And in that second half, Villa completed 355 passes. That's their most passes on record in a half of Premier League football. They had 27 shots, but nothing clear cut as far as I can remember really in the second half. So what happened in the second half? It was just a mammoth defensive effort.
Well, it was attack versus defense. It was purely attack versus defense. We had no interest in challenging their goal. No interest whatsoever in giving Emi Martinez anything to do. Case in point, Thiago is winning the ball in the penalty area and just lumping it forward to get it as far away from the goal as possible. But what I will say is credit where credit's due from Kelleher to Thiago and the other 8 players that were on the pitch, and then Hickey who comes on, Yarmo who comes on, KLP and Collins who comes on as well. When we changed to a back 5, I thought, this is if this goes badly, it's not going to look good on Keith. But it went so well. He made the change at the right time. I know we want to talk about substitutes. Made the change at the right time, and it helped us. But there was no they didn't really have anything clear cut. The only thing that I can think of is when Leon Bailey gets the ball, cuts in on his left foot, and just skies the chance.
Yeah. Just before we talk about the subs, just the Abraham VAR check. I mean, it took so long. I think it was very clear. I think we can all agree the ball was out. The interesting thing I heard on Match of the Day was that is the furthest they've gone back in time to rule out a goal. Obviously, 19 seconds. I've seen some Villa fans on Twitter arguing how could it be the same phase of play when it's literally all the way up the other end by their own corner flag. But I think when you see the move, you can see how it's the same phase of play because they attack quite quickly. You know, we're committed high up the pitch in that same phase. Do you think it was the right decision?
Well, the ball's gone off the pitch. You can't argue with the fact that the ball has gone off the pitch, and it's football fans. It's the fickleness of football fans because if Brentford, if we've got the ball and we take it out off the pitch, and then we go down the other end and we score, Villa fans are screaming that that's a throw on down the other end of the pitch, and they expect the ball to then go back. It would have been hilarious if we had scored from that, by the way. It would have been absolutely hilarious. The funniest thing is, while the VAR check was happening, my dad went for a pee, came back, and the VAR check was still happening. So it went on for so long. But if the ball is factually out of play, I don't think that it really matters whether it's an attacking phase of play. The ball has gone out. The ball is off the pitch. Like the ball is dead. It should. Well, that's where we should be restarting the game from anyway. But as a fickle football fan, I will argue Villa's case because if that happens for us, I'm like, well, that's a completely different phase of play. I will argue their case that what they're saying is right. But at the same time, if the ball is factually off the pitch, it's hard to argue with that, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got to say, I think it's the right decision. But I think I'm a little bit surprised that VAR didn't just give the goal because I think for these things, you know, if they're a little bit unsure, was it a bit too long ago? Then often they give it, and obviously that was only a couple of minutes into the second half, and it could have been a very different game if that had gone in. But let's go on to the subs because I think, you know, if Villa did have a better period in the second half, it was before we changed to a back five. At the time, I thought it was maybe a little bit too early, taking Dango off as well. I was thinking who's going to be running in behind Thiago if he's flicking the ball on. But you know, we've criticised him for his subs a lot this season. I've always probably thought he's better at making subs when we're in these sorts of positions when we're winning the game. But I think we've got to say he got it right this time.
Yeah, and we've said, isn't it? I think that if it was the other way around, that Villa were down to 10 men, and then they went 1-0 up, I still unfortunately believe that he wouldn't have made the right changes to benefit us. And I think that his strength is when we're winning. His strength is when we're winning, not when we're chasing the game. If he has to make a substitute to impact the game, I don't trust that substitute because, again, I'm sorry. I said it last week. KLP is a great servant for our club, but he's not someone you bring on to change the game. And I thought that if we was going to make a change, I really thought that this was the sort of game that Romel Donovan would have done well in. Purely because of his unpredictability. If we were going to make an attacking change like Dango for another attacker, that attacker in my mind would have been Romel because of you don't know what the hell he is going to do. But bring in Yarmo for Hendo. That's obviously the substitution that you expect to see. Hendo, absolutely brilliant for the time that he was on the pitch, but he was knackered by the time he went off. And that was just purely down to the defensive work that everyone as a unit did. Yarmo comes on and he just chases everything. He's like a little terrier. He nips at ankles. What he does is he does the dirty work and he does it well. Nathan comes on and he brings a bit of solidarity, which he has. We know he is susceptible to a mistake, but he does have his a lot of his strengths. My worry was partnering him again next to Sepp, but everyone did so well. He did well. I thought he could have been a little bit more touch tight to his man, but at the same time, when you've got someone like Leon Bailey, who is a very quick winger, you don't want to be too close because all he has to do is knock it past you and then you're out of the game completely. So if you can face him up, fair enough, you can face him up, you might be able to get a challenge in. The substitutes were right. I think they were at the right time. But again, I just hope that when we're behind and we're chasing the game, he has the guts to go for it, to make a positive change. Defensively, solid. When we're ahead, he makes the right substitutes.
Yeah, I think KLP was the right person to bring on in this particular game. Obviously, you talk about Donovan, but I think, everybody, including Thiago, needed to do their bit defensively in that second half. And I
Yeah.
think you probably don't put Donovan on in that situation when
Well,
he's likely to be a bit more naive in those areas of the pitch.
For me, he'd be one of those players that you bring on and you just leave him outside of the penalty area. Like he doesn't have the height, obviously, that Thiago has, and you'd be forgiven in that second half for thinking that Thiago was a centre back. He was absolutely unreal doing his defensive.
Like Forest away on the opening day, don't remind me.
Yeah, the problem is with that, we went 3-0 down.
I think the fact that Konsa and Torres were also so high, it at least gave him a chance when we cleared it long, because it was almost a foot race between the three of them, because they were almost in our own box as well. Whereas if they had stayed back, I think the ball would have come back at us quicker if Thiago wasn't up high with them, challenging them.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to talk about Thiago's reaction after some of his defensive moments, and obviously, as you just pointed out, he had a lot of them.
Yeah, it was just obviously the fans being where they are, and a lot of it did come down this right-hand side with Matty Cash and Leon Bailey. Thiago was doing the dirty work inside the 6-yard box, and it might have been late into the game, but a ball comes in and he just sticks his head on it, and as soon as he does it, it's a turn and a fist pump to the away fans, and I love it. Like when you see players that are passionate, they love it. And as I said, you could be forgiven for thinking that Thiago was a defender for some of that game as well. He was absolutely brilliant. And what he does, what he does so well is other things other than scoring goals. I know that's such a stupid thing to say, but when we played against Bournemouth, he didn't score, but he was one of the best players on the pitch. And we beat Villa. Dango scored, and he was one of the best players on the pitch, I think. And that's because of the defensive work that he did. That's the torrid time that he gave the defenders, and he was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think he had such a tough role as well, and I think that was one of the only games I can remember where actually turning him around and shooting towards us in the first half actually worked out, because we saw the goal in front of us, and then we saw that whole defensive performance in the second half. Normally, I hate it when we're not shooting the way we're meant to be in the second half, but I think it worked.
We got to hate it for different reasons this time, because that was the longest. I'm going to say 55 because obviously there was 10 minutes added on. That was the longest 55 minutes of football that I have seen for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Who stood out? Because I think, it can be quite difficult to pick out individuals in this sort of game where the whole team really made an effort. I wrote down Christopher Ajer. I thought he was probably our best player on the day.
He got man of the match. He got the Premier League man of the match, didn't he? So it's hard to pick who stood out, isn't it? Because from Kelleher to Thiago, every man did their job. Unfortunately, it's easier to pick out who didn't stand out than who did this game. Like,
I wonder who that is.
I wonder who that might be. But everybody was phenomenal. Sepp was solid. We've had so many conversations about Sepp being a bit naive, diving into challenges like he did last week with the second goal against Forest. He was solid. Rico was absolutely phenomenal as well. Hickey, when he came on, was good defensively, solid. Coyote, when we was walking out of the ground, we was walking through, obviously, the Villa fans back to the car, and a few of their fans going, man, they're right back that they've got that one with a long throw-ins. He's unreal. And they're saying he's going to be the next big thing. I do think that Coyotes, this was the first game in a few games where Coyote has been back to that version of himself where we're going, he's solid. He is unreal. I trust him going forward. I trust him doing the defensive work. There was one bit in the second half where the ball comes to him and he clears it, but he's stretching for it. And I'm thinking, no, I can't see another Coyote mistake. Like, I can't see it. But he did so well. Bounced back from two maybe not fantastic performances, but everybody as a whole. And Kelleher did so well as well. Clear balls that were coming into the box and he was taking a risk and punching it, being more assertive in his penalty area. It was just brilliant from everybody.
Yeah, I think Rico Henry as well, that the one-on-one defending that he has, and there's a lot of debate between him and Hickey. I think, again, I mean, we've spoken about it as players in the past. I think if you merge the two, we've got the perfect left back because I think he gets forward better, he gets tighter to his man. Henry, probably edges it in terms of 1v1 defensively, although Hickey can do it. But then on the ball, when it comes to that final pass or just that bit of technical quality, you'd have Aaron Hickey. And I think if you combine the both, you've got the perfect left back. But, at the moment, I think I'm quite happy with Rico Henry in the side, particularly against better sides where we need to, just get forward a little bit more, get us up the pitch. And I think Rico Henry will do that. Even if the last ball is not always there. But anyway, as an away day, where does that rank in terms of our Premier League season so far?
Oh, I know you've noted it down. Best away day since City. It's definitely going to be up there, isn't it? As one of them, especially with the scenes at the end and stuff like that. And it's hard to put it above that City game, but it was certainly one of the best, especially considering where Aston Villa are this season.
Yeah, I think they're both. You can tell why they're probably the best two that I can remember because obviously City last minute winner. It's that euphoria of being uncertain until the very end, and I think you had that here as well because I was convinced they were going to score until the very last second of this game. We've seen it before. I mean, that's the first time since that City game as well that we've beaten a side who started the day in the top four away from home. And, what circumstances to do that first win at Villa Park as well, as we've mentioned. I thought it was great at the end when Keith Andrews got the whole of the coaching staff in front of the away end. Anything else from the Villa game before we move on to some questions we've got?
It was just brilliant. It was awful, but it was brilliant. I hated every minute, but I loved every second.
I agree. That's so brilliantly summed up and makes so much sense for anyone that was there. In terms of questions then, so we've got quite a few. We've got one from someone called Mike. I don't know if you've heard of him. But he says, how many times have we beaten Villa this season? And does Matty Cash want picking up in the morning? Do you want to answer that one, Craig, for this mystery person called Mike?
Well, it's nice that the fans have sent their questions in, and Mike, big fan. Technically, we've only beaten Villa twice this season because we drew with it and then beat them on penalties. So yeah. I think Rooney's got his eye on picking Matty Cash up, hasn't he? I expected a tweet from him as well. I do think that this was the most satisfying of the three games that we've had against Aston Villa this season, and I loved as well. You say, is there anything else you want to talk about? I loved the clip of Thiago afterwards, especially with all of the videos of Onana coming out where he's doing the points and then putting them in his pocket. And Thiago does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and puts it in his pocket. I loved it.
We've got some more similar ones that we've had in previous weeks about Thomas Frank. We've got one from Sean. I think we might have had this exact question in the last few weeks. Was Thomas Frank holding us back? I mean, again, this is another thing that Keith Andrews has done that Thomas Frank was never able to in terms of winning at Villa Park. I'm sure there's been a couple of other things this season. What are your thoughts on that as we evolve? I think the last couple of months we've been very, very good.
I don't think he was holding us back, but I think it's an evolution step of our club. It's the next step, isn't it? Which is funny because probably 6 games ago, maybe not 6 games ago because we was winning. 10 games ago, we was talking about whether or not Keith Andrews is the man that takes us to that next step. He was the one that we was going, I don't know if he's going to be the one that gets us into Europe, if he gets us into that next step. And I don't think Thomas Frank was holding us back because he brought us so far forwards from where we were when he took over. We look at those 10 games that Thomas Frank had at the start of his tenure, and we was calling for him to be sacked. If we had sacked him, God knows where the club would be at this time. We may never have got to the Premier League if we hadn't stuck by Thomas Frank. So I don't think, personally, I don't think that I will ever say that Thomas Frank held us back. I will say that he brought us forwards to a position where he couldn't take us forward anymore. Then the next step, you have a natural next step of a football club, don't you? And that next step was him moving on and us having to adapt and reevaluate where we are so that we can move into that next phase of Brentford's history. And that's what we're doing. Fingers crossed, touch wood, hopefully at the moment.
Yeah, I think what I will say, I think the last 2 months, I think since like the Wolves away game, I think our baseline performance, even when we're at our worst, has been very good still. Like you're pretty good standards still. You know, we've not had any stinkers. I think the style of play, you know, we were a bit worried about just, you know, pure long ball football a few months ago and whether Keith could mix it up. You know, the way we played at Chelsea, the way we started this game at 11v11 versus Villa, it shows that we can play some decent football against really, really good teams. And I think that's something we've shown in the last couple of months that we hadn't shown before that.
I think a really big point of this game as well is it's kind of turning the tables a little bit. Is we're not the only team that struggles against other teams that just sit back and defend. Because we struggled with Forest when they did it. You know, we've struggled in other games this season where teams have just sat back, not really wanted the ball, and we've had to try and break them down. I know we beat Burnley, but for 80 minutes, we couldn't do it. And all we did was park the bus in that second half. We had no interest in attacking. We had zero interest in causing Emi Martinez any problems. All we wanted to do is make sure that they didn't score. So we sat back, we low blocked, and Villa struggled. So we're not the only team that struggles against it. They really struggle to break us down.
Yeah, and I don't think we were bad against Forest, but I don't think we were great either. But that's what I'm saying. I think that's probably our worst performance in the last month and a half, and it wasn't terrible like some of our early season performances. I think Keith's also done a good job in getting some of the more fringe players to, when they have been given the opportunity, like Vitali announced since he's come in, they're at a higher level than I can remember them being. The conditioning of the players, I don't know how much of that is down to Thomas Frank or, you know, how much he used to deal with that, but obviously managing injuries, managing load. I think last season we would not have seen Damsgaard and Aya a week later after they came off last week. So I think, you know, we've made steps forward. How much of that is actually down to Thomas Frank or Keith Andrews themselves? Because they got a team around them, I don't know. We've got a few questions about Kevin Schade, Marty on Twitter. Again, we've covered this a little bit. Is this the end for Kevin Schade as a starter? Should we go with our usual lineup with Dango instead once Damsgaard is fit, or do we test our new signing? Richard says, is it time to release Donovan in place of Kevin Schade? What would you do in the next few weeks going forwards?
Well, I thought that question from Richard, with the way that we've got it written out in the running order, was a testament to your. Should we send him out on loan? Is it time to just release him? But that makes more sense now. That makes more sense now. Is this the end for Kevin Schade as a start? I managed to mute myself, so that was interesting. No, it's not the end of Kevin Schade as a starter. He'll have his 3-game ban, because obviously this is a violent conduct red card. So he'll have his 3-game ban. I don't know if he'll come straight back in as a starter. It depends how well we do over these next 3 games as well, because, well, Marty's put a couple of scenarios in there already. I think going to Newcastle next week, we'll see Damsgaard step back in, and he'll play that floating role, which he does, where he can drift out to the left, but he can also come into the middle, and we almost play as a 4-4-2 at times. I don't think we'll see our new signing. I don't think we'll see Kai Furo, because he's the Thiago follow-up, isn't he?
Where is he?
I don't know. He wasn't even in the squad, was he?
Luca Bent was on the bench. He wasn't even on my radar, but K Furo wasn't. So I can only see he might be carrying a knock or isn't fully fit yet, which I thought was a bit strange.
Well, if either way, whether he's in the team or not, I don't see Thiago and Kai Furo playing at the same time, unless we're losing a game and Keith Andrews decides that he's just going to fucking go for it. He's just going to go for it, so he chucks the tall striker on. I hope that we see minutes for Romel Donovan over these next few games. I think any Brentford fan will say that he's the one that we're looking at as potential for the future. You know, he could be a moneymaker. Plus, you've got that English tax as well in a few years. So, hope he gets a few minutes. I think we'll see Damsgaard stepping back in. But I don't see this as the end for Kevin Schade as a starter. I think it might take him a little bit of time to get back into it, but it won't be the end, unfortunately. I say unfortunately.
Was that Craig? Unfortunately, the true colour showed there. No, I don't think it's the end for him either. The third game of his ban, I think it counts, is the Macclesfield game. So Schade wouldn't have played that anyway. Donovan, no. I'm assuming, would have played that anyway. So I think we'll probably see Damsgaard for the next two against Newcastle and Arsenal, and then that's if we don't go to back 5 against Arsenal. But and then we'll see Donovan, I think, in the Macclesfield game. A couple of others, obviously it's transfer deadline day today. Doesn't look like we're going to do a lot. Gary said, what do you think of our squad depth, especially in the middle of the park? We only really have 4 centre midfielders and we generally play 4-3-3. So I think we really should try and get one more in, especially if Onyeka is going to Coventry, which I don't think is yet confirmed, but looks like it will be happening. What are your thoughts?
We had a here we go from Fab, didn't we, for Onyeka to Cov? I'm still of the firm belief that if we need another defensive midfielder, play Aaron Hickey as that defensive midfielder. He'd done it before in his youth career. Give him that position, let him do it. I don't know if we need another one. If we had lost Damsgaard to a longer term injury, I would have said yes, we need to get someone in, even if it's just a loan for the rest of the season, get another player in. But we've got Jensen, Yarmo, Damsgaard, Hendo, and that feels like the end of that list. But we've got flexibility in what we do as well, because we can change the formation in which we play. We can go 4-2-2-2, which is what we've done almost in a diamond at times as well. I don't think we need one, but that person that comes in has to be comfortable sitting on the bench, because they have to try and displace Jensen, Damsgaard, Yarmo, and Hendo, as we just said as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much Keith Andrews trusts Damsgaard in like a midfield 3, because obviously when he's played recently, it's been with Jensen and kind of instead of one of the front 3. So we'll have to see. I suppose he will have to drop in there if we had injuries to 2 of Yarmo, Hendo, and then we might look a little bit lightweight if 2 of the midfield 3 are Jensen and Damsgaard. But I mean, in summary, I just don't think we will do anything today. So I don't, given the position we're in as well, I can't see anything happening.
Like you said last week after the Damsgaard and Ayer injuries, is all of a sudden that depth seems to disappear with those 2 players going out. So it depends how you want to look at it. 1 or 2 injuries could cause a problem, but touch wood, that won't happen. We could. Last season we was plagued with it. Last couple of seasons we've been plagued with it. So yeah, but like I say, that person has to come in and be willing to sit on the bench and try and displace the guys that are playing well.
Yeah. We've got a couple more. I'll link them together. MKW Ultra says, is our league position at the moment an accurate measure of our quality? And Sports Marticles says, should I book the tickets for Europe anyway? I suggest that might be a little bit difficult when you don't know where in Europe you're going. But go on, Craig, as a positive one on this podcast, answer those for me.
I was going to say, do you want to answer the question from MKW Ultra? Especially your, let's make Dan believe. Yeah, if we did this, if we did that. I think that that's a great question. Is our position at the moment an accurate measure of our quality? I think that the Premier League this season is so different to what it has been in the last 4 that we've been in, where there is a clear outlier at the bottom in Wolves, and at the moment there is a clear outlier at the top in Arsenal. In previous seasons, we've had the 3 come up, the 3 go down. But we've had other teams in and around there. I mean, Everton were in and around there for so long, weren't they? They just didn't go down. Is it a good representation? That's a great question. I really don't know how to answer that, because if we lose 2 games, we could drop to 14th. But if we win 2 games, we could go up to 4th. So it probably is because we're just in the mix, and it's the, as we said, it's the natural next step for us, isn't it? Be in the mix. We've got the players. At the start of the season, we lost all these players. Wissa went, Buemo went, Norgard went, and you're thinking, oh, they've lost that quality. But Thiago's been unreal. We know what Damsgaard can do. Jensen has been brilliant this season. Janelt has been... There's your other midfielder, by the way. I knew I was forgetting someone. He has been phenomenal this season. Christopher Ayer has stepped back into centre-back, been unreal. Rico and Hickey coming back from their injuries, fantastic. Kelleher been a brilliant signing for us. So our quality is represented in the players that we've got that are doing well for us now. So I would say, yeah. And at the moment, if you think about it, you've got the top 6 and we're the best of the rest at the moment, which I think, based on fixtures that we've had and results like this one, results beating Villa away, beating Newcastle, beating United, beating Liverpool, but then losing twice to Forest, it does show that we're in the right direction, but we struggle against teams that like to sit back against us. So I want to say yes, but at the same time, it could be a completely different story in 2 games if we lose them. We've been very fortunate. We lost 2 games on the bounce, and we dropped from 5th to 7th. So people around us are struggling as well. Fulham have lost 2 out of 3. Everton have won. Everton are two places behind us. They've won 1 in their last 5. Newcastle haven't won in 3 games. Sunderland, they've won 1 in 5. So teams are struggling around us. But as long as we keep doing our bit, we'll try and be the best of the rest. You never know. Sport Marticles might need that European ticket. I hope we do come the end of the season, but I won't book it yet because we could be in some backwater town in Azerbaijan or Fiorentina. Who knows?
I'm just looking at the table. I think the top 6 of Arsenal, City, Villa, United, Chelsea, Liverpool, I think that probably stays a top 6 in some order. I don't think that we have enough to catch them, overtake them, and stay there, which is no criticism to us. Obviously, the teams that I've just listed out. We're currently 7th, which will be a European place, whether that's Conference League or Europa League, we don't yet know. If we're looking at the teams behind us, we've got 2 points on Fulham and Everton. We got 3 points on Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Sunderland. Although Sunderland are playing Burnley tonight as we're recording. We've got 5 points on Brighton. We've got 7 points on Spurs and Palace. I think, and this is quite a positive thing for me to say, I think out of all those teams below us, the only one I'd be a little bit worried about potentially being better than us between now and the end of the season, or potentially going on a consistent run, and this leads us on to the next bit very nicely, is Newcastle out of those teams. And if we can go to St. James's at the weekend, and if we can beat them, I might just believe, Craig, because then we'd have 6 points on them. And, they're a team that do very well at home. They're a team that struggle a little bit away, quite similar to us. But obviously we know what they can do when they're at their best and the type of run they can go on. But after this weekend winning somewhere we've never won before, how are you feeling about doing it all again next week?
I could just hear Mike Canal somewhere in Asia go, make Dan believe. You've got to feel confident. We've been playing well over the last sort of 10 games. You have to feel confident going into it. St. James's Park, like Villa Park, never going to be an easy place to go. It would be an interesting reception for Wissa again. But, hey, football's a funny old game, man. We just won at Villa with 10 men. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah, I really hope Wissa plays, and I really hope he doesn't score against us. But it will be a fun weekend. I mean, I think Damsgaard will probably come in for Schade. I don't think we can really justify Collins coming back in after the performance you just had. What do you think?
It's difficult. That's a great question again, isn't it? The only person who's going to come in for is Sepp. And that'll be because Nathan did so well when he came on in the second half. So he is our captain. Whether we just think that he needed one little break, fair enough. We could even, I don't think we will, based on the way we've played recently. We could go to about 5. I don't think we will. I think that'll be the Arsenal game that we do. But like you said, we're above Newcastle. We should go at them the same way we've gone at every other team in this run. We went at Chelsea. Yeah, we wasn't fantastic, but we'll go at them. And if we go at them, I believe that we could get something. I think I just want to say as well. If people saw this run of games, and I said to you, you've got Villa away, Newcastle away, and Arsenal at home, you'll get 3 points out of those games. Would you have taken that?
Yeah, I didn't think we'd get any. I thought we'd lose 5 in a row, Craig.
So there you go. You've got the 3 points already that you thought you'd get. Anything now is a bonus. In this little run of game, anything that you get now is a bonus.
Yeah, and I think if you can win at Villa Park, you can win at St James's.
Absolutely.
To me, they're both really difficult places to go. But we've shown that we can do it. I think our general away form has improved recently. Any further concluding thoughts before we wrap up?
Make Dan believe.
Short and sweet. I like it. Hopefully, maybe next week will be the week that I believe. The Ealing Road podcast will be back after the Newcastle game with a full-time show. Again, if we get any contacts from any Newcastle podcasts and if we do a preview of them, we will be posting on our channels as well. Please comment, subscribe, follow us on our socials. That is at the Ealing Road on X and at Ealing Road Pod on Insta. Craig, it's been a good one, and we'll see you next week.
Up the bees.
Up the bees.